So remember, always be kind to your horse, never shin shank him. So this is probably the best story that I have to tell. The beauty of what we're going to do with this horse story today is I actually have the guy, so that you guys believe that this is a true story and I didn't make this crap up. We actually have him here to give him his side of the story. And I think that you'll find when he starts to tell his side of the story, all he's going to do is apologize and realize and tell you guys that how smart of a person I am and how I changed his life for the better. Because I think he was probably going down the path to a bad place. So literally, I saved him from the depths of hell just from shin shanking him one day at the clinic.
Probably 4 or 5 years ago, doing a clinic with Steve Kutie, and had done a few before, and we knew each other, but didn't spend a lot of time, you know, just kind of getting to know him and feel him out, him feel me out, and everybody kept telling me how good he was.
5-6 years ago, I was doing a clinic up in Illinois, and I had a guy that had been to a couple of my clinics previously. So we had a prior history of things, and he was always wanting to be just a little fast with his hands, you know? I mean, he kind of looked like Jackie Chan sometimes when he was riding, you know what I mean? Like, wah, 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 wah. And his horses are all confused and not knowing what in the world's going on. So we fast forward to this next clinic, and every time it's kind of the same stuff, right? It's the same, you know, he's always pulling on his horses and he doesn't let his horses go. And I always try to explain to him on how we need to communicate better with our horses, right? To be an effective horseman, so to speak. And, you know, there were some times that he would have glimmers of hope and I would think that he was gonna make it. And then when I come back from the next clinic, maybe a little bit of disappointment on my end, maybe hurts my soul, but we soldier through.
So I'm riding with him, and I'm riding pretty good. Horse is nice and smooth, nice and reactive, doing what I'm asking. And Steve starts talking about my hands, and my hands are pretty soft. They're where they should be. Everything's nice and gentle. And out of the blue, Steve comes up and he says, you know, your hands are a little heavy. I'm like, no, I'm good. Horse is good. Everybody's good. He said, I'll ride around a little bit longer. Steve comes back and says, no, I'm pretty sure your hands are heavy.
There's maybe 10 or 12 people at this clinic, let's say, and he'd been riding his horse around, and the whole time I've told him, you know, stop pulling on your horse. I mean, if you're gonna hold on to him, then you can go ahead and pull, but don't yank on him. And you know, he'd yanked on him one too many times, and finally I just said, okay, I had enough. Now, if you're around me, sometimes I'm a little on the impulsive side, right? I don't put a lot of forethought into how I'm going to do things or how the consequences are going to play out over the end. Now, a little bit on the backstory is this guy was like one of the original G.I. Joe guys, right? I mean, you know, he's wide and he wants to be tough and he's kind of gruff and kind of rolls around like, you know, the junkyard dog that wants to be mean, but you know, probably if you just pet on him a little bit, he'll cuddle up to you. So I kind of saw through how that was going to be. And I asked him, I said, hey, how would you like to do a demo for everybody here? And I'm going to make kind of a little presentation and show you something. How would you like to be part of it? You know, he was all gung-ho for it.
He said, you want to try a demonstration? I'm like, all right, you know, I'll give that a shot.
So he gets off of his horse, comes out into the middle of the arena in front of everyone. So the lady who was putting on the clinic, I said, hey, go grab me a leverage bit with a curb chain. And she just kind of looks at me dumbfounded because she didn't know what I was going to do. And at that point, I wasn't 100% sure. I thought it would be a good idea. So she comes back and she gives me the bridle. And so we've got probably 8-foot reins on this bridle, curb chain, got a solid mouthpiece on the curb bit. So I proceed to just talk and do what I do, filling up dead space with me just endlessly rambling along. And I unhooked the curb chain from the back of the bit on one side. So I bend down and I put the mouthpiece of the bit across the shin. And then I take the curb chain and I run it behind his calf and I hook it on the other side. And he's just kind of looking at me, not for sure what was about to happen, and just being a really good sport about everything. So I asked him if he was ready. Of course, he says yes, not knowing what's fixing to happen.
So I hop off the horse and Steve comes up and he starts fumbling around on my leg and feeling my leg up and stuff with a bit and reins. And I'm like, I don't know him real well, but I didn't think we were dating or anything. But next thing I know, I've got this contraption on my leg, and he stands behind me and he says, are you ready? I'm like, are we ready for a date or what are we doing?
So I step behind him and leave about 3 foot of slack in these 8 foot of reins, and I yank the shit out of him. And when that bit grabbed a hold of his shin, he fell to the ground.
And next thing I know, I'm face down in the dirt. And I'm not sure what really happened. I just saw a flash of pain and then I saw dirt.
Now mind you, the guy's probably 5'10", pretty tough, and I took him to the ground like that, okay? So, with that being said, everybody at the clinic's aghast, right? They're like, oh, this whole thing really happened. So, with Steve being Steve and doing things the way that I tend to do things, after the shell shock wore off when I first yanked him down, he goes to get back up. So this is where sometimes I tend to black out on programs that are going on. So when he goes to get back up, for some unknown reason to God and myself, I have no idea why, I yanked the shit out of him again and I put him on the ground the second time. Why? I don't know, but I guess apparently I wanted to really drive home the point.
And I thought, well, this is probably not where I want to stay. And I start to get up and it happens again. Now the first time, I'm the fool. The second time, I'm like, I'm trapped. There's no way out of this one. Now I figured it out. He's got the reins, it's around my leg, and every time I go to get up, I'm not getting up. So the only way to do that is I reach around, I grab the reins, and I come around, and I adjust my pants because I decide it's probably time to get rid of the problem on the other end of the reins.
Truth be known is when he pulled up his pants, it was because they were full of caca. Because he didn't understand how someone of my stature put him on the ground.
Okay.
So now, he gets back up the second time, and now we know stuff is going to get real. Because if you've ever been around anybody who wants to fight or wants to argue, I assume maybe women do it, but I've never had to fight a woman yet, is that he gets up and he pulls up his pants, okay? So now you know if you're a guy and the guy that you just shin shanked to the ground gets up and pulls up his pants, stuff is fixing to get real.
Adrenaline's pumping, blood pressure's up, and it's about time to end Steve Kutie.
So now, me being oblivious to stuff like I am, he gets up, now he's in my face, right? Like, we're close. I mean, like this close. We're looking at each other. He's got his chest all poked out, and I just stand there. And I said, you didn't like that, did you? He said, no, that hurt, and I'm pissed.
I come up and I talk to him. I said, Steve, that probably wasn't real nice. The truth of the matter is as I came up to him, I was really going to squish him. But a friend of ours had come up in the middle. She kind of knew at that point that I had kind of flipped the switch.
So Steve being Steve, for some unknown reason again, I pat him on the shoulder, just tap him, and I said, well, your horse didn't like it either, so consider that a free lesson. And then I walked off.
At that point, it was all good.
You may think that that was a little bit harsh, but here's the thing. His horse actually sent me a letter the next week saying how soft his hands were. And for the rest of this clinic, whenever he thought about pulling on his horse, and then the big knot that he had on his shin, and I only know he had a big knot on his shin, one, because I pulled him pretty hard. I mean, look at that bad boy, right? It took him to the ground. But his wife said he had a big knot on his shin. So I promise you, for the next 2 days at this clinic, every time that stirrup leather touched his shin, his hands became butter.
Steve's all right. I get where he was coming from, but we didn't talk for a while. It took a little bit to get through that.
Over the years, we became friends and done some business together.
But now we're good friends.
So all in all, it ended up being a good weekend. I didn't get my butt kicked, and I taught somebody a valuable lesson. You're probably you are the only person that can ever say, I've been shin shanked by the best.
That, I will give you that.
Yep.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Am I better with my hands?
You are.
Okay.
You are, for
Now we're
sure.
good.
Like butter.
Okay.
Like butter. So.
Next time, or just tell me.
Yes?
Just tell me.
I tried, right? But he doesn't listen.
I've been told that.
It was a true story, and the lesson was learned. No harm, no foul. Everybody got through it, and just makes for a good story. So remember, always be kind to your horse. Never shin shank him. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of Horse Stories on Global Horse Network. We'd like to thank this month's sponsor, Snafflebit Clothing Company, for all your horse and apparel needs. Visit them on the web at snafflebitclothingcompany.com. If you like what we're doing or you don't, make sure that you put it in the comments below, because there's nothing I like better than to aggravate somebody like a sandburr under your saddle pad. Be sure to share our stuff on all the social media platforms, because that's what all the cool kids are doing. Be sure to subscribe if you like what we're doing. If you want to be notified whenever we're posting new content and some kick-ass stuff, click on the notification bell. If you like what we're doing, click the like button. If you hate what we're doing, click that bad boy twice, because there's nothing that I enjoy more than a good hater. And as always, ride hard, be safe, and have fun.